Hi, and welcome to Trading with That Beer. This episode, I'm going to be discussing the trade that I did on BBIG on September 1st, 2021. So this video was sped up over 600 times, and the video was originally recorded at over 4 hours or close to 4 hours. So this would be about 40 minutes. So condensing that 4-hour trade into about 40 minutes. So I was looking at two different trades, either CCIJ or BBIG. I ended up choosing BBIG purely based off the technical pattern. As a former runner, I have traded in the past. You can see here quite successfully. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot and post it on Twitter. And now my thought process on this was to actually buy into it at this level, risking 5%. If this key area down here actually failed, to me that means the chart is failing. What I like to do is buy during times of consolidation. So if it comes down and actually gets me stopped out at this point, I'll be absolutely fine. What I'm also doing right here is, putting down what I perceive as the support level, which is at the $9 range. And you can see it held support here, and so that's where I ended up putting the support. I bought it at 926, so my risk is at 880. And at this point, I'm just letting the trade work. When I entered into the trade, I put a 2-tier bracket order. So that means if it reaches this first sell target right here, it would be 15%. The next sell target would be 30%. And if it gets me stopped out, they get me stopped out at one time or down here. And the bracket orders do actually act as separate trades altogether. So when you're scaling out of the trade, it's going to be a separate order in order to scale out. So if you're using the bracket orders for OTC type trading, it does actually cost commissions to do that if your broker trades commissions. So it's something to keep in mind. So right here, I'm just thinking, the trade's starting to work out. I'm profitable about 13 bucks, and this is on a small account because it's part of the small account challenge. And as long as we can hold VWAP here and push up, I think there's a good chance of continuing on. This time frame at 840, I'm anticipating a much bigger move, which is why I have 15 or 30%. Now, if it does go up to 15%, come back down and get me stopped out of the rest of my shares, I'll still end up taking a profit about $9 and some change or around that price. But I'm okay if the trade doesn't work at all. With the type of style that I trade with, because it is based off of probabilities, there's going to be a chance the trades won't work, and that's absolutely okay with me. I take 3-4 losses in a row. One winner will actually wipe out all those losses and make extra money on the, make enough money to compensate for those losses is pretty much what the goal is here. So at this point, I'm just kind of letting it work. Now, sometimes you'll actually see some pop-ups with auto-save coming up. It will be pretty brief on the screen because it's split up over 600 times. But at this time, I'm either writing down stuff on my trading workbook, thoughts and processes that I was thinking and feeling, or I was editing a previous video that I have posted. You should go check it out. And that video is called Massive Mistakes to Avoid as a New Trader. It's a great video, and just talks about very common mistakes that other new traders do, but they're not aware of, and a lot of other people are not talking about them. And so here in a moment, what we'll be doing is drawing a trend line. It looks like it's actually forming some higher lows. VWAP is holding that support here. Okay, so as the chart starts to come down here, I do start to think that that's starting to fail. That number 4 that flashed as this chart start to come down and start to retest 9. And what I'm thinking of is that, 9 still support. So I'm expecting it to kind of get above 9, around the mid 9s, hold, start to reclaim VWAP, and continue pushing up a little bit higher. Okay, there's that trend line that I was talked about. And so as long as this trend still holds true, the trade's still on. Even if it does break that, I do have to wait until it actually stops me at my risk level. I don't actually exit the trade too early. There's times with the trading style that I do that I'll pull it too early. If I'm really close to where my stop loss is at, bounce right off of it and continue going on. So with the trading style that I do, I just set everything and kind of forget it. So it's over and under that trend line, so it keeps popping underneath it and then kind of retesting that trend line. So the chart right here is, to me, is starting to show a little bit of weakness. What I'm doing is recognizing that the trend line was kind of not in the right spot, so I just moved it down, and you can see it's a little bit more accurate towards the chart. And it kind of pops up above VWAP, and start to kind of hesitate there for a moment. Now there's a pretty big red candle, so I'm, getting a little bit nervous seeing that the chart may not actually work. With how much volume's on this trade, I was kind of wondering why we already haven't had a pop already. With this type of trend, it should be kind of working out here soon. But you can see that overall trend is actually holding pretty nicely. That big red candle falls through, snaps back up, reclaims trend line, reclaims VWAP. So what I end up doing is just skipping a little bit forward here, and you can see it starts to push up through. 10 is still acting as resistance. There's a little bit of resistance on 10 there. I just put the chart over. So 10 is acting as resistance here. Try to test again. I'm kind of looking to see if this next push kind of goes through 10. I just end up skipping a little bit more. So it comes back down to that trend line, bounces off of it. So I skip through it again, and looks like it's starting to work out. So this is actually an ABCD pattern. So this is A, B's down here, C's right here, you'd be buying here, risking below here, and taking the probability of the move. It looks like at this point, didn't actually break the 1050s. And so at this point, I'm kind of thinking whether or not it's actually going to reach my first sell target, or if it's going to come down, give me stop out for loss. And so I'm going to go ahead and skip a little bit more. So it looks like it's going to try to reclaim these. So I'm just watching it. And again, I'm okay with any outcome of this trade. It's not necessarily about the money. It's more in lines of proper execution. I know with the way that I trade, like I said, I may have a few series of losing trades in a row and a few series of winning trades in a row. Either way, the outcome doesn't really matter. It's all about the probabilities and the style of trading that I do. So as it's starting to come down a little bit more, just extend that trend line, see if that trend line is still going to hold, or if it's just going to make another higher low. And so it kind of comes through that trend line pretty fast, and it doesn't look like it's actually going to be holding there. The first few moments of that green candle was, thought it might come back up above that trend line, the first green candle, but it seems like it's just getting a little bit heavier. You can see down here, I know it's pretty fast with the level twos. Again, I don't really have much emphasis on level twos, but I have been seeing a lot of big sellers come in. Even though the buyer so far has actually been able to absorb a lot of that shares, it just seems like it's having a hard time getting back above that trend line. So let's give a little bit further. It does actually come down from the trend line, bounce off the VWAP, and it looks just a little bit weaker. At this point, it's actually created a lower high and a higher low. It's starting to curl back up. Unless it can actually reclaim this trend line and continue on trend, there's a good probability this chart's going to fail. Now, the other thing is this trend line could also act as a resistance instead of actually support, as get above that trend line and continue its upward trajectory, or that trend line can actually become resistance, and as it starts to approach that trend line, it may actually bounce back off of it and keep heading down lower. That's kind of like what it did. So I tried to test that trend line right here. Again, on second try, on third try, it just rejects, comes back down, and possibly go right through the VWAP. And there we go, it's snap through VWAP, and the downward zone pressures start coming. At this point, I'm pretty convinced that the chart's going to die. The volume on the day is just starting to slowly fade down. There's a lot more sellers. There's still some buyers coming in thinking it's a good opportunity to buy down here as far as, price wise, they probably think it's a discount. So they're stepping in, trying to push it up a little bit higher. I do believe this has actually been pumped on Twitter. I'm not too sure. I don't really check the news or anything like that, but I do think it's a Twitter pump or some sort of chat room pump. So what I'm looking at this point is see how it tests around the VWAP. Is it going to reject VWAP and just keep fading down, or is it going to reclaim VWAP and change the direction of that trend? If you notice, I also put a trend line here. And that's just confirming the lower highs, the overall direction of the trend. It may even hit that trend line and just keep making some lower highs and lower lows as it starts to go down. I'm just going to skip through it again. So right now at this point, it's kind of staying below VWAP. The volume is starting to slowly fade off, which means, to me, it means that the buying volume doesn't come in. Nobody's willing to buy it at this point. And especially with it coming to 11:30, it's between 10 and 11 o'clock. Colorado time is what I would consider midday lull. Sometimes it may even happen until 12. But with this type of chart action, it just kind of shows me a lot more weakness. Looks like we try to have one more push through VWAP, and just see if there's any way that we can now retest that, any higher highs or anything like that on this chart. But with the overall trajectory, this push isn't really convincing. It didn't really have, a big candles with a lot of volume. The volume is still much lower than it was in the past, especially in the morning time. So at this point, I don't really think that shorts are going to be squeezed out of it. And I'm just kind of mentally prepared that I'm going to be taking a loss on this trade. Hold back on our VWAP and back over and under, and tries to make that final push up. But it's just, the volume again, it's just too weak. There's just not enough people coming in to push that stock up as far as buyers go. And the sellers again are pretty big on the ask size. And I just skipped again. Now, with the original trend line that was there, you can see I moved it down. Thinking perhaps it's just formed another trend. And maybe this is the actual trend that the chart's going to work off of on the day. And maybe this trend actually failed. And so I'm looking at this at this point more of a wedge pattern compared to an ABCD pattern. Thinking that if it can hold around this VWAP level, maybe later on the day, around the 12 to 12:30, 1 o'clock area, it might actually pop up and keep going. And it could just be at this point gathering shorts to actually squeeze out later on. So it snaps back through VWAP again, and this time that trend line acts as a resistance, just like it did up here before. And at this point, I'm actually writing in my trading workbook that I'm going to be taking a loss with a big red candle come down, just confirming that there's going to be a loss in the day. And some people might be thinking of why I don't just accept the loss when it was up here, when I started thinking that was even possible, and then I all get stopped at 880. So I didn't get any slippage on that trade. But some people may be questioning why I didn't just, recognize the chart was failing and either take a profit up here or down here. And the reason why I didn't do that is even though I recognize the chart was starting to fail, I still don't know what's going to happen next in the market. There's no way for me to find out what's going to happen next. A lot of the feelings that people get, including myself, are based off of fear or greed, and it's not necessarily what's the outcome of the trade. The way I view everything is the patterns themselves have built-in probabilities, kind of like how a casino or gambling has probabilities within them, and all I'm doing is just playing those probabilities. So at this point, it's out to $11.58 loss. If I would have cut it up here, I would have been up around $25, $30. But what I'm looking for again is that 15 to 30% price. Basically risking $11.50 to make, I think it was like $56 on the day. So I'll definitely take that loss over today because I know that there's going to be an outcome of where I'll end up taking a win and kind of wipe away all those losses. So beginning of September, down $11.50. So that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to show you guys a recap and thought process, and we'll see you next time.